Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank INCIBE for inviting me here because they always count on me for these events. I have been an inspector in the cybercrime department of National Police Force, and then now I am working at the cyber attack group by the General Information Police Station. But beside that, thank you very much for you who are here at 8 o'clock after a very long day, and welcome to those who are listening to us on streaming. I wanted to do a game, then not to make this very boring. So I'm going to ask you to participate. Please, can you access kahoot.it and enter that pin? We have a technical profile here, but I'm going to check how much you know about cybercrime and about the National Police Force, about how we work on those crimes. Okay, there is no one accessing Kahoot. Not worry, I'm going to give you some time to access it. Okay, those are new players.
A ver qué tal os va. Como todo juego tiene ganador, luego ya.
Like everyone, there will be a winner. Let's see who pays the beers.
Podéis jugar desde casa.
You can also play remotely from your house for those who are seeing us on streaming.
Más o menos lo tenéis, por lo menos los que estamos aquí.
Okay, are you all in? Shall we start? Okay, let's start.
¿De qué se encarga la Policía Nacional?
What is the police in charge of? The contention of a cybercrime, the research of a cybercrime, the research of a cyber incident, or to guarantee cybersecurity.
Como veis, 1-0. Se acabó la pregunta. Luego vemos y comentamos las respuestas.
We will see it's the investigation of a cybercrime. That's the correct answer.
Pregunta número 2.
Question number 2. When a ransomware infects my systems, I restore immediately the information from my backup copies. I collect evidence of what happened, and then I restore information. I pay or I format. I assume the losses. So
Recabo muestras de lo sucedido y después
yes, I collect evidence and then I restore information. Question number 3. Is it mandatory to denounce a cyber attack? Only if it is a public crime. It is optional. It is mandatory. It is not mandatory, but it is mandatory to report it.
1. Tiempo.
Okay, this one is complicated, but it is important to have everything clear. When I report information about this incident, it is enough to send them the commitment indicators. I send all the information I can find in my systems. I tell them what happens and that's enough, or I give data related to cybercrime with the technical report. Good. I think you have understood this clearly.
delito
Is it a
el que me
crime
acceda a la red de
for
mi
somebody
casa
to
sin
access
autorización?
the network of my house without any
Solo si
authorization?
consigue
Of
acceder a
course,
algún
only
dispositivo,
if they can access a
no si no
device,
lo hace con mala
not if
intención
they don't have
o
bad
solo si vulnera
intention,
las
or
normas de
only
seguridad.
if they don't vulnerate security
2,
breaches.
1, tiempo. Es trampa, es trampa.
It was a trap
Vamos a ver la
question.
respuesta, porque no es lo
Let's
mismo
see the
un
answer. It
incidente
is not
que
the
un
same, an
incidente.
incident or
Un
a
ataque de
crime.
denegación de servicio es
Denial of
delito
service attack, is
A,
it a
si me doy
crime?
cuenta.
Yes,
B,
if
si
I
mis sistemas se ven
realize it
afectados
has
de manera
happened.
grave.
Yes, if my systems have
C,
been
si es
significantly
distribuido. O D,
affected,
siempre.
if it is
¿Qué
distributed, or
pensáis?
D, always.
4, 3, 2, 1. Y. No es tan fácil, ¿no? Esto como parece.
It is not as
Parece que
easy,
tenemos algunos
right?
conceptos que no
Some
son
concepts
correctos.
are not
Si
correct.
descubro
If
una
I discover a
vulnerabilidad que me
vulnerability that
permite
allows me
acceder
to
a un
access a
sistema,
system,
lo
I
reporto a la
report it
policía.
to the police.
No lo
I do
reporto
not
porque es
report it
delito.
because it is a crime.
Le digo a un amigo que lo
I tell a
reporte él.
friend to report
O se
it,
lo cuento
or
a la misma
I tell a
policía.
police friend.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bien. Bueno, este era más fácil. Pero vamos a ver
This one
por
was
qué.
easier. Okay, let's see the podium.
Tenemos el tercero
The third one is ASR,
el segundo
second
sería
is
Julio
Julius, and the first
y el
one
ganador de la tarde de
is
hoy, CISSD.
CISSD.
Bien, ¿no?
Congratulations.
Bueno, pues vamos a
So
desmontar
let's
todos esos
dismantle
mitos y falsas
all
creencias que
those
tenemos
myths that
sobre
we have
ciberincidentes y
on
ciberataques.
cybercrime and cyber incidents.
Para ello, esto. Vale, vamos a ir viendo ciertos conceptos.
So let's see certain concepts. I'm going to be fast, brief, and precise. Questions will be for later, okay? So simply, let's talk about cyberspace. We all know what cyberspace is, right? I just wanted to say that NATO considers it as a fifth dimension where a battle can occur. We imagine something like this, but I think we all are aware that it looks like more like this. And it's in these systems where we implement cybersecurity. We, human beings, I mean. So we have a cyberspace and we have cybersecurity, which are all the security measures that we implement in our information system or communication networks. So far, so good, right? But there can be some incidents of any kind that affect the integrity of my communication networks or my information systems. When does the police come into play? This is what I want you to understand. They enter in the game when there is a cybercrime. We do not manage cyber incidents and we do not investigate cyber incidents unless they are a crime. So we will see in which cases they are considered a crime and which cases they are not. At that point, we would be facing cybercrime. How is cybercrime classified? In order to understand it in a very easy way, there can be two kinds of crimes. There are some crimes called cyber facilitators, those crimes which have always existed, but thanks to the internet they can be spread and they can reach much more people, much more people. And then we have the cyber-dependent crimes, those crimes which do not exist without the existence of internet or other communication networks. As for cyber facilitator crimes, these have a greater scope and they are more easy to be distributed. like frauds and scams. They have always existed. Traditional crimes that try to fool us, try to trick me into sending a payment in favor of another person. Also crimes against people, all the insults, all the harassment. They have always existed, but through social media and through the internet, it is easier to distribute it and it is more serious. Also, child sexual exploitation, intellectual propriety, and so on. And then we have cyber-dependent crimes. From machine to machine, if we eliminate machines, they wouldn't exist because they never existed before the creation of internet and social media. And what are they called? Cyber attacks. What are they exactly? They are attacks against confidentiality of my information system on networks, communication networks, against the integrity of my documentation, data, systems or data or networks, and against the availability of my information or of an structure. So what's the ranking of cyber attacks? According to Europol. First of all, ransomware. I don't think it is necessary for me to explain what a ransomware is. There are less amount of ransomware, but they are more targeted and they have more consequences. Usually, they happen due to an economic reason, but now there are more sabotage consequences. It is used to eliminate, to delete all the information that I have in my system instead of asking for a ransom to be paid. And then emails and vulnerabilities are the ways of infection. The second one in the ranking is the data compromise. They want financial information, personal data, and credentials in order to commit other crimes or to have some profit, because every data can be sold on the internet. What are the attack vectors which are more common? Phishing, data breaches, and malware. And be careful with insiders. What's that? It is the typical employee of a company who is going to leave and doesn't have a good relationship with the boss. The third one in the ranking is the denial service attacks.
These attacks entail normally extortion. This means, for example, attacking a company, or, for example, someone attacking Indra on the election day. Indra was the company in charge of counting the votes. And you can extort Indra and say, for example, either you pay 1 million euros to me or I cannot give you permit to proceed with the counting of votings. So there is a lot of things like that related to attacks. And also ideological attacks are very frequent too. Now that we're having the climate summit, we may have to face some ideological attacks against the system, of course. Then we have the defacement, which it means attacking a web page. It is not as important, but it is very visual and it may have some impact, but the ID systems are barely affected. And then we have other things that are not cyber attacks, that are not cyber dependent crimes, as we've seen before, but which are very important too because they affect many people and companies. This is frauds and extortions. Extortions are basically addressed to companies, and the incidence of these type of attacks is increasing a lot. So what can I do if I'm suffering an attack? Many of you are working on cybersecurity sector and you probably know what to do. But well, first of all, you have to try to detect and contain the attack, mitigate the impact that this may have, and ensuring the business can continue working without eliminating evidence, and this is something I will explain later. And also protecting the system will be the last step. So normally whenever we have emergency in the street, the police goes there in order to solve that emergency. But this doesn't happen regarding cybersecurity. The CRT, the CERTs, are the ones in charge of doing that. We are in charge of doing the police investigation that happens when the incident has been controlled and mitigated. Our work depends on the evidence that has been collected by the forensic team. The technical team needs to do a forensic analysis of the information gathered, and this is why it's needed for information to be gathered. It's also needed to safeguard a custody chain and to draft a technical report. All this information should be given to the police so that the police, this means us, we are able to do an investigation in order to arrest the criminals. And what does it mean, the custody chain? We are between the people, the technician, and the legal authorities. And this is the whole chain. We are working with the technical team that are managing the incidences and the legal authorities that will be in charge of prosecuting the criminals. So in order for all the evidence to be valid and not to be considered as tampered and to get to know the real flow of an electronic evidence, we would need for you to be careful when gathering information, when gathering evidence, and we need to know who has extracted information at which moment. For example, if I want to access the logs of a web server and that has suffered defacement, for example, I need to know who is going to download the logs, from which specific server. This is helpful for us in order to get to know the infrastructure that you are using and the moment in which you've done that, time and day. All these things must be registered in writing. This is going to be delivered to the police, and the police is going to work with this evidence and with this information, and we are going to be able to obtain evidence and to continue processing the case. And the judge also is going to be able to know where all this evidence comes from. So if we have RAMs where we cannot delete all the information and restore the backups. No, this is not what we should do. We have to gather all the evidence that we can the right way, writing all the steps, which evidence are being gathered by whom, in which moment, and all this information is going to be given to the police. And, well, of course, afterwards, you will be in charge of restoring the whole system again. Should I notify an incident? Now I'm talking about incidents, not crimes, cyber incidents. In fact, what's the difference between an incident and a crime? For example, if there is a service denial attack in my system, I detect it, I contain it, and that's it, and my website, for example, is still working, that's an incident. You've solved it in the right way, so that's fine. But there was no cybercrime. We're going to see the differences later into depth. But that's just an example. So if I face an incident, do I have to report? Well, we have the NIS directive that was transposed in the Spanish legislation through the Real Decree Law 12/2018, and also the National Guideline of Notification and Management of cyber incidents, drafted by the National Cybersecurity Council. What does this national guideline say? Well, it says that there is a ranking, a classification of incidents, and depending on the impact or the seriousness of the incident, I should have to report it or not. It also depends on the company I'm representing. Depending on that, I will have to notify some institutions or different institutions. Most of you, I guess you're coming from the private sector, but if the incident is affecting the national defense of the country, you would have to report the respective institution. Also, the Data Protection Agency may get involved in some of the incidents. But why do you have to know about this? Well, if you don't notify, if you don't report these incidents, you may face some fines, some punishment. If you report all this information to the CERT, the CERT, they are going to give us that information. but we would only act when there is a cybercrime, not a cyber incident. And what's a cybercrime? Well, this differentiation depends on the modus operandi and the result produced in a system. For example, regarding cyber attacks against confidentiality, we have a crime which is illegal access to an information system, documents, etc. And in order for this to be a crime per se, it should involve accessing personal data, sensitive data, or that the security measures have been violated. For example, if I have a router in my place and my name and password is admin and someone gets in, that's not a crime. Also, regarding integrity, we have crimes related to computing damages. This means deleting information within a system, and it is going to be considered a crime when the result is serious. If someone is accessing my system, it would be a crime, but if someone adds, for example, a dot in a document, it wouldn't be an integrity crime. It would be another type of crime. And also regarding availability, there are availability crimes, and if they are too serious, they would be considered a crime. If my website is being attacked, but there is no problem with it and it keeps on working, then there is no crime. In the end, the judge is going to decide on what's serious or not, but we must take into account that if the system stops working and stops providing services which are important for the company, of course, this is going to be considered a crime and will be treated as such. And of course, this legislation is going to be changing and evolving all the time because all these crimes are very new. And well, we've seen the most common cyber attacks. In the case of ransomware, if the result is serious, this is considered a crime because this paralyzes businesses. Regarding compromised data, if they are violating security measures, they are considered a crime. If they are affecting personal data, they are a crime. As for DDoS attacks, if they are serious, they are considered a crime. Defacement, if they have a serious result, they are going to be considered crime. Normally, this attack is considered a crime. And fraud and extortion is always going to be considered a crime and a serious crime because these money transfers that sometimes are done, if you notify the police afterwards, we can sometimes stop the transfer. And extortion is a very serious crime, so you have to talk to the police immediately. If you are not sure about something being a crime or not, which is something normal because you are not expert in law, you can call this number, the 091 National Police number, and also you can call the assistance line of the INCIBE. Also, we have some citizenship collaboration network, which is anonymous. If I find a vulnerability, this is what we've seen before. If we find a vulnerability in a system, what do we do? Should we report it or not? Am I a criminal? Am I not? There is an anonymous way of reporting this information, because in this case, it's not going to be a crime. But because you found a vulnerability, but you don't have any bad intention. But if you don't know what to do, you don't have to tell to a friend or keep it to yourself or anything like that. You enter into the National Police website, policia.es/colabora.php, and here you have a collaboration area in which you can do anonymous communications. If you want to, you can also write down your email address if you want a reply from the police, but well, we are there for you too. And then what happens regarding reporting? If I'm suffering a crime, if I'm the victim of a crime, is it compulsory for me to report? Is it worth it? Well, all citizens are forced to report public crimes. What's a public cybercrime? Well, we've seen two types: illegally accessing our systems and crimes that imply damages to our documentation, our systems, or the availability of a service. Illegal accessing personal data or violating security measures are a semi-private crime. This means that we need the victim to report in order to prosecute that criminal. I mean, you are not forced to report that, but if we find this type of crime, we can even call the victim and offer the victim the possibility of reporting. But if it affects a lot of people, if it affects publicly, everybody is forced to report that crime. The difference between public and semi-public is that if it's a semi-public crime, we can act, but we need also the victim reporting. But of course, reporting is always useful because this is going to start an investigation, and this is the only way of stopping attacks, because sometimes we are receiving attacks from outside Spain, that's true, but we have mechanisms of cooperation nationally and internationally. Even if you contain an attack and you can keep on working in your business, this is going to happen again because the same people are going to be programming these types of attacks, launching these types of attacks. So wherever they are in the world, we can try to reach them. And this is the only way we have in order to solve the problem. We have to address the cause. And, well, if I want to report, I have to go to the police station, and probably I will have to talk to the technology experts of the police force, and I will give all the information available, the way I've explained before, the logs, the technical report, etc. We will have to safeguard a custody channel, and, well, we can give all this information to the police in a USB, DVD, etc. Then we will move to the police investigation. What's a police investigation? Well, first of all, we check that there is a crime. We make sure that we gather as much evidence as possible. We resort to all type of resources, digital and physical sources of information. This is going to help us find someone that has participated in the crime. This is going to be this is called technical attribution. But besides doing technical investigation, we also do police investigation and asset investigation. We are going to try to prosecute that criminal in every way possible. After all these things, we are going to be able to find the person who's guilty, and we will put this person at the disposition of the legal authority for judgment. And, well, and I'm going to explain some cases of success, because all of you are technicians and you may think, okay, there are many ways of becoming anonymous on the internet. It's not easy to find these criminals, and they can be wherever they want in the world. They may be affecting many victims in Europe, in Spain, and I don't know, in many countries, and the author may be based on Ukraine. Is it possible to reach these criminals? Yes, it is possible. Sometimes it takes years, but we have success cases, and I'm going to share with you some of the success cases of my colleagues. They solved, for example, the case of a virus that was affecting the police. This was the first ransomware that affected an institution at the global level. In 2011, 2012, this started to happen, and we were pioneers in this cyber crime case, and we were the second police force in the world in intervening bitcoins after the DEA. So in Spain, we are pioneers, and their investigation was so so successful. I didn't participate it because I wasn't even a policewoman back then. But the investigation was so successful that the criminals were imprisoned for 6 years, and we didn't even have to go to the court. And last year, the biggest cyber theft was arrested in Alicante. I'm sure that you've heard of Carbanac. And well, they were Carbanac, the thieves of Carbanac were arrested in Alicante by my colleagues of the cybercrime unit. And this organization managed to tamper the ATMs of banks in order to get money from these ATMs. And well, as you know, financial entities have very advanced cybersecurity systems because they are very much attacked, but they managed to be within the bank for months, analyzing the ways they operate in, achieving more and more permits until they were able to modify the income, the amount of money in accounts. They attacked more than 100 banks in 40 different countries, and thanks to police investigations at international level, we could solve this case. So I want you to understand the idea that we managed to get these criminals and that we can do a lot for you. And I want for you to have a clear idea of everything that I've explained. So I'm going to go back to the test that we've done before.
A ver si ahora lo tenemos más claro. ¿De qué se encarga la Policía Nacional? De la contención de ciberincidentes.
What does the police force do? Containing incidents? No, that's what the cybersecurity technical teams, or well, what the third does. We manage cybercrimes, but at the police level, we do not contain any cyber incidents. Do we investigate cyber incidents? Not all of them. We investigate cyber crimes. We do the investigation of these cyber incidents when they are considered to be a crime. Are we in charge of guaranteeing cybersecurity? No, this is what many of you do, experts in cybersecurity. All of you are guaranteeing the cybersecurity in your companies. When a ransomware is infecting my system, should I restore the information? This is what you usually do because the boss starts getting nervous and nobody knows how to do. But if you are doing so, you are going to be eliminating many evidence that will help us prosecute the criminals. Should I gather evidence and then restore the systems? Yes, that's the right answer. Should I pay in order to have the system back? No, of course, we never have to do that. It's true that there are small companies that don't know how to manage that, and they have very important information. When they cannot use the system and they don't have backups, they do that. But we shouldn't do that because that could be encouraging this type of crimes. Should I format everything and assume the losses? Well, I think that for me that's even better than paying, but well, it depends on the information that you are handling and your losses. In this case, is it compulsory to report a cyber attack just if it is considered as a public crime? Well, this is difficult sometimes for you to know. So if you are not sure, please call the 091. I mean, if someone accesses my computer and I don't think that my information is so important, maybe I am not going to report it, and that's okay. But if the attack is something that has caused damage to a system or to a service, I should report it. That's compulsory. Let's see the next one. When I give information about an evidence to the police, is it just okay with giving them the indicators? No, it's not enough because maybe I can get to know where this criminal lives and maybe I can arrest him, but the judge is going to say, but why is this person the criminal? What are the evidence? So everything needs to be registered. Should I give all the information that I find in my system? No, of course not. Should I tell them everything that's happened and that's enough? No, of course not. I mean, that's what you can do as a first step if you don't know what to do, and we are going to help you in order to gather all the information needed to report. But the right one is I should bring all the information related to the crime plus a technical report. Is it a crime if someone is accessing the network in my house without authorization? Not many people have knew that answer. It is only a crime if the security measures have been violated. And the cyber. And what happens with denial of service attacks? They are always considered a cybercrime. And regarding vulnerabilities, yes, you have to report any type of vulnerabilities that you may find. You don't have to be afraid of that. Well, I think that I'm going to finish now because I think it's quite late. But I want to say something before finishing. As tomorrow is Black Friday, I would like for you to take the newspaper because we've published some advice in order to avoid frauds. Probably you are all internet users and you are careful and you know how to identify URLs that are malicious. You can identify websites that do not start by HTTP, etc. But these are very specific advices that you must take into account, that you may send to your families, friends, people that do not know that much about e-commerce, so that they are careful tomorrow. So, well, thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the event because we're going to have very interesting presentations. As you know, you can call us at any time in 091, but I hope you don't suffer a lot of cyber crimes. Anyway, it can happen to anyone. This is why I'm giving you this information. So, of course, we will be there for you in order to help you. Thank you very much. Well, thank you so much. Are there any questions for her? Good afternoon. Sorry, because I arrived a little bit late to your presentation. I would have loved to be here from the beginning, but I would like you to tell me, as a representative of the police force, I think that national legislation is running short regarding the investigation of cyber crimes because this is not something physical. It's something that is moving from even one continent to another in a very fast way. I've been meeting other police forces and because of my work, and I think that this is complex even to monitor at the European level. So I would like to know how you're working with that because it is a very complicated issue. Yes, as you're saying, this is something which is changing all the time, but our legal systems is one of the most advanced of the world regarding international cooperation on cyber intelligence. We have a legislation that was updated in 2015, and taking into account the speed of legislation, this is quite new, quite modern. This legislation allows us to do different things that many other countries cannot, such as remote investigation, doing remote investigation through malware, have undercover police forces working in different systems. So these are pioneer laws in, that even countries of Latin America are copying from us. It is true that the investigation is very complex because of the anonymity measures that criminals can use, but we can reach many places. I'm not going to explain exactly the measures that we are using, but we have a lot of investigations resources that are working, even though the issue is complex and boring, and even though everything needs to be written down in a paper, bureaucracy is also heavy for us. Even that, we managed to do a lot of things to access a lot of information. Maybe even criminals could be shocked by the information that we can access. And the cyberspace does not have borders, and if I want to commit a crime in Spain, I'm not going to do it from Spain. I'm going to do it from a different country. And there are so-called computing paradise that have different legislations and do not provide data, or that do not cooperate with European authorities. So in the end, cybercrime turns into a geopolitical problem related to political, economic interests between different states, different parts of the world, and this is affecting us. But even though, surprisingly, we can reach many places, and regarding child porn, everyone is willing to help, and it is we can very efficiently prosecute these child pornography criminals. Good afternoon. Well, my question is not related exactly to cyber crimes or cyber attack. It's more related to education. I'm the principal of a secondary educational institution, and we are facing problems regarding phishing, extortion with videos. So could you please explain to me how these crimes are classified and what's the penal sanction, the criminal sanction for that? Because they, for example, sometimes students say they cannot bring me to court because I'm a minor. So I need to have information on that, because I want to explain my students, if you do that, this is a crime, and besides having an educational sanction, you are going to have also a legal sanction, and you are going to face this and this. Well, in the first place, I would like to invite you to send an email to participa@policia.es, because we have people from the police that visit schools and that tries to raise awareness among young people, among students. So, well, cyberbullying, cyber harassment are common cyber attacks in high schools, and this is a crime, of course. We would have to see each case by case, because crime implies that a student needs to modify his or her life because he or she feels a danger. For example, if someone has to cross the street because he or she doesn't want to find an attacker, this would imply that he's suffering from a crime. Other type of crimes are not as well classified. It depends on the judge, but we would have to see case by case, or if there are other crimes related. For example, when we are talking about phishing or accessing profiles, we have to see that case by case. But regarding raising awareness, please send an email to participa@policia.es, but also if there is a crime, you can call 091 in order to talk to the police, and they will give you advice on specific cases. Are there any more questions? So when you are doing a DDoS, but the website is still working, this is not a crime, right? And if you do a permanent DDoS to the police website, but the website still works, is it a crime? No, it's not a crime. So can we do that, right? Yes, you can do it. It's not a crime, and we have our police force is very well trained in order to mitigate these type of attacks.
¿Te puedo preguntar yo? Perdona.
Perdón, ¿dónde estás que no te veo? ¿Dónde estás que no te veo?
Por el centro.
Vale, vale.
Good afternoon.
Digo que has
You've mentioned that we have an innovative legislation related to cybersecurity. Is this legislation criminal legislation? What type of legislation are you mentioning? Because in your presentation you've mentioned some specific legislations, but can you explain to me the specific legislation? Well, in criminal law, we have a latest update from 2015, and regarding criminal investigation, which is that the imprisonment law that you've mentioned, the update is also from 2015. Also, regarding the incident notification, we have the NIS directive from 2016, and the transposition of that law into a royal decree law from 2018. But this wouldn't be considered a crime. Notification is beyond, is apart from crimes. And on the one side we have notifications, on the other side we have crimes. And when we're talking about crimes, we have the classification of crime from 2015 and the investigation tools from the imprisonment law of 2015. Well, thank you very much. I was wondering what a lawyer could do in these cases, because I've seen that the police is quite efficient, but I was wondering what a lawyer could do in these cases. Well, I'm not going to give you any clue. It's for them to find it out. But, well, in fact, the police is doing a great job. We are pioneers in many of these situations, and it's true that for lawyers it is very difficult to argue with us regarding these issues.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. I loved your presentation and the way you've presented this information. 2 days ago, a friend of mine recommended me not to use online banking because they say that there may be a lot of crimes through these banking apps. So do we have to be especially careful? I mean, there are crimes, but we don't have to stop using these apps, because even though we are talking all the time about crimes, technology is giving us a lot of advantages, and we have to feel sure using them. Banking apps usually have a double-step verification. You are sent an SMS whenever you are purchasing on the internet, for example. So, I mean, check the advices that I've mentioned before regarding Black Friday, because they are useful in general. Using prepayment cards is something also, an advice that I can give you in order to purchase on the internet. But it is true that there are applications that steal information from your bank, but there is nothing you can do there. It's not that they are cheating the user through a phishing of a website in which you are introducing your credentials. This is something more specific that is affecting directly the banking app, and that's completely transparent from to the user. This may happen, of course. I mean, people say that there are two types of people that have been stolen and people that will be stolen. And it's true that these things happen, but if we are careful enough, that's okay. I mean, I'm working in this field and I'm very careful, but once I was missing some money in my account. I called and I didn't do that purchase. So it doesn't just depend on us and how we are navigating, because I may have introduced my credit number in the services of a company in which I used to buy, and then they have suffered a Datagate, and this information now is spread all over the dark web. So, well, using prepayment cards is a good advice. And then, if I have access credentials in order to access this e-commerce, I should change these credentials from time to time, maybe every month, every 3 months. And when the app asks to save data, should we do that or not? No, never. You don't ever have to save passwords in the navigator. You can use password management systems. If you enter into the INCIBE website, there are many free tools that you can use, and many of them are useful in order to manage these passwords. And so take a look, because this may be interesting. Well,
congratulations for your presentation. I guess there are some SMEs and freelance workers that have also been attacked, but is there a room to collaborate with the police force in order to set up SMEs to act as mediators? I don't think that's necessary, because if a small company has an incident, they're going to recur to INCIBE in order to contain that incident. We are going to be contacted for the police investigation, and anyone can contact us on the phone number 091. There are technology groups all over Spain, so if somebody has a doubt in a very small town, the central services of technology groups are going to receive that question. Even if they ask it from abroad, we are coordinated, and we are going to manage all those consultations. So I don't think it is necessary to have an intermediary between small companies or individuals and the police force. We're trying to help everyone, every citizen, every company, big, small, medium-sized, freelance. We are there in order to help citizens, so I don't see there is room for a private company to act as intermediary. Any other question? I wanted to ask you about the hatred crimes. You know, inequality, discrimination. There are more of them. The way of reporting these hate crimes through social media is different from bullying, for example, from school harassment. I'm going to show you the presentation once again. I don't know, it could be a hate crime regarding sexuality, regarding religion. Do you have a group specialized in this kind of crime?
Tenemos varios grupos dedicados a esto en función de la temática y también gente que participa en secretaría de Estado.
We have groups which are specialized in these hate crimes because it is gaining more relevance, and there are more and more, and on social media people think that they can say whatever they want without any consequences. If you are a victim, it would be better to denounce. However, if you are a user of a social network and you see something that could be considered as a crime, here, in an anonymous way, you can report it. So you access the website of the police force, and then you have citizens' participation here on the right part, on the corner, and then in that tab you have to access citizen collaboration. Then here you have technology crimes, but there are also hate crimes. So this is going to be sent to the group which is specialized. Otherwise, we are coordinated in order to send those claims to the specialized group. And what happens with local police forces? Well, it depends on the police where you claim. I don't know if it's the regional police of Catalonia or from the Basque country or the local police of Madrid. It depends. If they can handle it, they will do it. However, on many occasions, the judicial system is the one who is going to manage it. Yeah, and there is also a department of cybercrime and cyber hate crimes, and we work hand in hand. Thank you. Any other question? So let's grab something to eat. Thank you very much, Maria. It was